county, just countermanding what also the president has been doing on that western region, especially in the Kisii region and also the Kakamega area as well. But before we head down also to the paper review, let's see how the weather will be today. So get all the wiser as far the weather is concerned today, and we shall be following that as well to see, bearing the fact that you've been warned as well that El Nino are here. We can see the rainfall are here, and also we need to brace up right now. Also we're given to understand also that officials or the workers from the Kenha are unclogging also the drainages to make sure that they're prepared for the El Nino as well. We shall be looking at the dailies momentarily, but just to give you highlights what we do have, as I'm just waiting for that to be projected for you. This is our agenda, is what is on the front page of the Standard this morning, whereas President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga have been the faces of bipartisan talks. Kenyans from all walks of life are also having their say. The committee is receiving memorandum that will be considered in their final report. That is what is on the front page of the Standard. As you can see it there, peace talks. It says, whereas President William Ruto and Azimio leader Raila Odinga have been faces of the bipartisan talk, Kenyans from all walks of life are also having their say. The committee is receiving a memorandum that will be considered in the final report. And also we can see Rungu Houghton, who is the executive director of Amnesty International, pushing for the shaking into place of the National Coroner's Service Act, and also setting aside adequate funding for the establishment of the National Coroner's Service Secretariat and Council. Remember, this particular legislation was passed, and up to now we don't have even a director general or a director coroner, general coroner, and the National Coroner's Service Secretariat and Council. This is meant to aid also in the facilitation of investigations that is uncoupled from the division of the DCI, so to speak, when it comes to crime investigations and also doing postmortems of bodies as well, that we need a separate body. And this is what now this National Coroner's Service Act was meant to do. But up to now, since the legislation was passed, we do not even have the council, we do not even have the Director General or Director Coroner General who has been installed in place. And this is what the civil society is also pushing for right now. On the other side, we have Kalonzo Musyoka saying, people are saying this is a constitutional moment and they are Kenyans talking. Therefore, we will not shy away from receiving any memorandum, only that they will have to be interrogated. And that's the story that you want to follow on page 2 of the Standard. This is our agenda. Looking at the teaser here, why push for new counties will not be walk in the park is another story that you want to follow inside the Standard. Moroka Pueltol at 2,000. Right now, that number seems to be rising, and that is above 2,000 as we were going to the press right now. It was 2,100 and the number keeps ticking up as it is right now. Remember, every Monday as well, you have Health and Science Pull-Out magazine coming in handy for you, that you get all the wiser as far as your health is concerned. And this is what is on the front page of the Standard this morning. Is a Pull-Out magazine. Just on the teaser there is where you have it on the front page. What pesticide is in your stew? That is a question. And that is inside the Health and Science. Remember, also we have a legislation that has been steamrolled by the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Gladys Boschule, who seeks to make sure that also some of these organizations, multinationals that are actually pushing the pesticides that have been banned in the European zone as well, are still being dumped here in Africa, and especially in our country as well, and they're finding their way into your food. And this is what is meant to be addressed as well. This is on the front page of the Standard this morning. Also, Coco Golf's rise in tennis. You can follow that story on the sports pages of the Standard this morning. I just showed you a snippet of it. I will be showing you much later the other dailies as well. But still, just to give you a teaser as we wait for that to be projected, 48 hours of drama at Bomas. 2022 elections, President William Ruto is marking 1 year in office since his installation, and that is this week. It's an anniversary there, as tense and anxious nation waited for the announcement of their next president. The National Tallying Center in Nairobi was receiving visitors with various requests to IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati and his team. But the events of August the 14th and 15th were possibly the defining moments of the elections. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. Ruto, why I want official opposition leader post is another story that you can follow on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning. Also on the teaser on the front page of the Daily Nation, blow to non-local teachers in NEP as TSC declines transfer request, or that is tucked away on page 10 of the Daily Nation this morning. Also, more under 50s getting early cancer diagnosis and deaths. This is a new study there, where diets high in red meats, low in fruit, high in sodium and low in milk, as well as alcohol and tobacco consumption are the main risk factors for early onset cancer. This is according to a new research there, and you can follow the story inside the Daily Nation as well. Also the Star, just giving you a teaser, I'll be running you by that, also the Split, as we continue the conversation with the panelist here. Tales of thousands injured cops crying for help. That is what is on the front page of the Star this morning. Neglected claims piling up as NHIF says Treasury yet to release funds. You can follow this story inside the Star as well. On People Daily, war of words over poll audits is another story that you want to follow inside the People Daily this morning. Round rocks bombers, Gachagua warns government side will not allow revisiting of election results, but Kalonzo hits back saying DP must not interfere with talks as Ruto, Raila rally their supporters. You have a story on page 4 and 5 of the People Daily this morning. I do not want unnecessary noise as my agenda is to unite Kenyans. This is what the president is categorical on. And also Kenya Kwanza has discriminated against some communities. This is what Raila says on the other side. We just run it by that story momentarily. Still on the front page of the People Daily, how climate change hurts refugees, failed rains in their home countries, and food insecurity in camps conspire to complicate the lives of displaced persons, making the case for intervention more urgent. That is what we have on the front page of the People Daily. All right, I will show you the other dailies as we proceed, but let's just buckle down to those stories as well to just give a snippet of what has been happening over the weekend as far as politics is concerned, where President William Ruto has revealed that 60% of all taxes collected in the country goes to paying debt, leaving only 40% for development and recurrent expenditure. President Ruto, who spoke during an interdenominational church service in Lare, Meru County, says his government will no longer borrow, but instead rely on resources from within to run his government. Jeff Kirui, start us off.
As the country continues to grapple with huge foreign debt, President William Ruto has painted a grim picture of the debt situation that threatens the development agenda and service delivery in Kenya.
Nitawaongoza na ukweli. Kwa sasa hivi, kati ya shilingi 10 ambayo tunaokota kama ushuru, shilingi 6 kwa shilingi 10 tunatumia kulipa madeni. Tukiendelea hiyo barabara ya madeni, itafika shilingi 7, itakuwa shilingi 8, alafu mwisho kazi yetu tukifanya itakuwa ni ya kulipa madeni.
Revelations that could see Kenyans in future dig deeper in their pockets amidst concern of high taxation, as President Ruto insists that his administration will push for self-sustenance through internally generated revenue as opposed to external loans.
Wageni watatusaidia, mabenki ya kimataifa watatusaidia, lakini jukumu la kujenga Kenya hii ni jukumu letu. Na ndio nimesema, kwa sababu jukumu la kujenga Kenya ni jukumu letu, na tutatumia mali yetu kujenga Kenya. Ndio nimesema wale wanaota ndoto ya kwamba wataiba mali yetu, ama watatumia ufisadi na ukora na utapeli kuharibu mali wa Kenya wametafuta, ushuru wa Kenya wamelipa. Hawa watu nimewaambia mambo yao ni matatu.
President William Ruto wading into the wrangles pitting the Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza and her deputy Isaac Mutuma.
Hatuna nafasi ya kupoteza na ugomvi. Hatuna nafasi ya kupoteza na kupigana. Tunataka tuungane, tushirikiane. Yule mkubwa ni yule atafanyia kazi wananchi kuliko mwenzake. Tafadhali, ninawaomba ndugu yangu viongozi, please, nawaomba kwa heshima tushirikiane hivyo.
Our people want us to be united and to speak in one voice. Because these people voted for President William Ruto to a man. Please don't deny them the opportunity to reap the benefit of their sweat and decision by bringing squabbles that are necessary. Let us unite.
The Kenya Kwanza leaders reiterated the need for elected leaders to work together for the common good of the electorates, irrespective of their political affiliations.
Munaona hata mimi navumilia wale wa maandamano, na mara naongelesha hawa kidogo nini, kwa sababu sasa unajua hii dunia na mambo ni namna hiyo. So tunasungushana tu hivyo, lakini tunahakikisha kwamba kazi inaendelea.
During the visit, President Ruto hinted of plans by the government to build a state lodge in Meru County. Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga has accused the national government of a plot to micromanage counties. Raila accused President William Ruto of taking overalls that had been devolved and forcing opposition leaders into supporting the government. Speaking in Kisii, the opposition leader said the government has no option but to release funds for the devolved units as enshrined in the constitution. Bramwell Wire has more.
Opposition Chief Raila Odinga was in Gusii region to attend the Thanksgiving Mass and meet the people tour at Magena Market in Kisii County. Odinga, while addressing Kisii residents at Magena Market, took a swipe at Kenya Kwanza-led government for undermining devolution by not allocating funds to county governments and also taking on roles assigned by the constitution to counties.
Sisi tulisema tutazidisha pesa kutoka 15% hadi 35 kwa 100. Hiyo pesa ukipatia serikali ya county hakuna shida hapa. Hakuna shida hapa. Lakini sasa kila mara kuja anazindua miradi ambayo imetengenezwa na serikali ya county. Atakuja kuzindua hospitali pale, atijini sasa unaambiwa ati barabara hii itapigwa lami, nini hiyo? Hiyo ni takataka.
The former premier also castigated President Ruto over the disbursement of fertilizer. Odinga says the fertilizer was meant to be distributed for free.
Hiyo anakuja kusema tumeteremsha bei ya mbolea kutoka shilingi 6,000 kwa gunia, sasa imekuja 2,500. Hiyo mbolea wamepewa bure na serikali ya Urusi, wagawanye kwa wakulima bure. Alafu anakuja anauza kwa shilingi 2,500. Hiyo 2,500 naenda wapi? Wamepewa bure tani 34,000, wakaongeza mchanga ndani yake, imefika sasa 1,100.
Azimio leaders who accompanied the opposition leader claimed the government was scared of Raila, hence the frequent trips to counties. The leaders affirmed their support behind Azimio leadership.
Kuso wale wengine tayari wameanza kufanya campaign. Awalali ni campaign. Wakisikia Raila wanafanya campaign 20 times a day. Lazima basi tusimame. Wangapi wanamshikilia baba Raila kabisa? Thank you.
Sisi tumekuja pamoja na baba na Kalonzo kuambia ya kwamba tunasimama imara ndani ya Azimio.
Nimeanza kazi. Tutahakikisha Azimio hapa mbele, hata kama serikali iko, tutapita nayo. Tuko tayari. Sisi hii duniani unazaliwa mara moja, unaishi mara moja, unafanya nini? Hiyo biashara nyingine baadaye bwana.
Bramwell Bwire, KTN News, Kisii County.
And at least 26 MPs are pushing a proposal to create 11 additional counties in Kenya to bring the total number of devolved units to 58. The MPs have made a proposal to the National Dialogue Committee and are optimistic that the memorandum will be approved and pushed to the next stage for approval and enactment. They argue that the 11 new counties will help address marginalization in some parts within existing counties. According to the legislators, the proposal can be passed and implemented without necessarily going through a referendum. But some constitutional experts argue that a lot has to be considered, as IBC doesn't have a mandate to create more counties. And really, Osige puts that into perspective.
13 years after the new constitution was birthed under the late former President Mwai Kibaki, the battle for counties boundaries review has been rekindled, with some 26 members of parliament calling for creation of additional 11 counties in the devolved structure of governance.
Proposing reduction or addition of counties is a facility that is provided in the constitution. How we go about it is also provided for in the constitution.
The lawmakers argue that the existing boundaries, which provisionally adopted districts as counties, have inadvertently led to economic, social and political marginalization.
But to propose a change via any other means that are provided by 188, that is where there is a constitutional incongruence.
The clamor for additional counties comes after members of parliament approved a report of the Budget and Appropriation Committee (BAC) that proposed a Kenyan shilling 7.9 billion allocation to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC).
Look at the economy of our country at this moment. We do not want more burdens.
In a memorandum presented to the National Dialogue Committee, NADCO, the 26 lawmakers led by Chairman Marwa Kitayama, Member of Parliament for Kuria East, the lawmakers want the creation of Kuria, Teso, Mount Elgon, East Pokot, Mwingi, Gucha, Suba, Ijara, Nakuru West, Wajir South and Nyambene to be additional counties. This means that should the proposal be passed and adopted by Kenyans, there will be 58 county governments.
We have not even done 100% implementation of devolution as is envisaged in the constitution. In this way, one, functionality. We find a fully devolved function, but the national government still sort of holds on to, if not the functions, the bigger chunk of the cake.
Led by constitutional lawyer Bobby Mukangi, who served as a commission in the 9-member committee of experts who drafted the 2010 constitution, counties boundary review cannot be undertaken by IEBC as its limit ends at constituency level, and the independent commission has to be formulated through an act of parliament.
There is also the proposal that it is the IEBC to do it. That is not the work of IEBC. IEBC delimits constituencies and wards, not counties. And then maybe it gives birth to the formation of this commission that will look at the boundaries as are right now.
The commission must collect views from members of the public and have solid reason why the 11 new counties should be created.
Why should we have 11 more county governments that would end up adding an extra budget to the public coffers, which is already bloated.
If you want a county to be formed, say in the northern part of Kenya, it doesn't mean that the Kenyans in the southern part of Kenya are not interested in that proposal. That's why the way the Constitution looks at it is a national conversation through this commission and the proposals which eventually Parliament also either endorses or refuses to.
As it seems, the county's boundary review is not a walk in the park, with experts suggesting there are other better accountability options rather than increasing the number of counties. This coming at a time that some counties are facing accountability queries as Kenyans complain about the financial burden to taxpayers to fund the current 47 counties.
Even with devolution, we devolved the bad and the ugly, in terms of corruption, abuse of power, misuse of public resources.
It is brought forth by the politicians. The members of parliament are generally politicians, and they are looking ahead to use the tagline, we are marginalized, from marginalized communities. But really, it's not about them coming from a marginalized community.
Willie Lusige, KTN News, Nairobi.
And separately, a section of Kenya Kwanza leaders have urged the expelled Orange Democratic Movement MPs to stand firm and continue working with the president to develop their areas. Speaking in Kilifi, the leaders castigated ODM leader Raila Odinga for curtailing freedom of association, saying that the Political Parties Act that was the basis to expel the ODM rebels was not above the Constitution of Kenya. Speaking in Gede during a Thanksgiving service at the SEK Church in Gede, attended by Public Service CS Aisha Jumwa, Tourism CS Penina Malonza, Kilifi Governor Gideon Mungaro, Deputy Majority Chief Whip, and Kilifi North MP Owen Baya, the Kenya Kwanza officials said Ruto's government had the face of Kenya. The event was also attended by the head of Public Service, Felix Koske.
Ninawaomba kwa unyenyekevu, elezeni wale ambao walipiga kura kwa ile vyama vingine kwamba tulipokea wageni, walikuja kwa sababu bunge wetu ni wa serikali, walikuja kwa sababu tuko na mawaziri ambao wako katika serikali na ni wenyeji wa hapo, na hata hapo kwao tutafika, lakini ikifika 2027 kura zije kwa kikapu kimoja.
Tuwe watu moja, tushikane, kama uko chama gani ama uko ingine, tuiache, tuungane, alafu tuwatumikie wananchi.
Kile ambacho wametoka akakifanya juzi ni kitendo cha kulaaniwa na kusema ni kitendo ambacho hakifanani na maneno yake, kwa sababu inclusivity haiwezi kuwa ni yeye tu kutaka kuingia ama kupenya katika serikali na isiwe si mtu mwingine yoyote. Mimi kuwatia nguvu wale wenzangu ambao walikuwa expelled, nataka niwaambie milango ya neema na baraka imeanza kuwafungukia.
Katiba yetu ya Kenya inasema kwamba rais wa Kenya na magavana lazima wafanye kazi pamoja. Kwa hivyo hii yetu hata si ya kupendana ama ni ya kikatiba. Kwamba mimi na rais hakuna mahali lazima tupishane, lazima tufanye kazi pamoja, akiongoza Kenya, nikiongoza serikali ya Kilifi, ili tuweze kupata maendeleo.
Right, and those are the stories we shall be discussing this morning with our panelists. I'm holding court with Member of Parliament, Kitui Central. This is Dr. Makali Mulu, who also will be telling us more on the issues to do with the health bill, as well as also Senator Hilary Sigave from Bobet County. We have with us also Beatrice Elachi, Member of Parliament, Dagoretti North. We'll be joined much later by Danson Mungatana, who is a senator of Tana River, and that has been the catnip issue. Just what we saw, the ODM rebels, and the debate has been between now the association or the freedom of association and the Political Parties Act as far as deeming is concerned. Also, there are 11 more counties that they are mulling over, and we've heard from the expert as well that that is not the preserve of IBC. That remains to be, of course, the legislators' function, and so we will know what is the clear way forward as far as that is concerned. But before we just hear for or get introductory remarks from our panelists this morning, let us hack back into history and have the newsroom. the news here much later in the course of the program. But let me just get the introductory remarks from Dr. Makali from Kitui Central. Mheshimiwa, karibu sana.
Yeah, Sunday bar.
Yes, today I've decided to bring you on this other side of my kiosk in the morning.
Yeah. Yes. There are changes.
Karibu sana.
Yeah, Sunday. It's a good morning, and good morning, viewers. The bar of the week was good. I managed to go to my constituency to commission some projects which have been completed by my board, the NGCDF board. Mm-hmm. And then towards the tail end of the week, to attend the normal social functions, Harambes, in the churches. I'm coming for two of my MCRs. So it was a busy week, but I think the earthquake in Morocco was
indeed
it was a case which really messed the week. And I want to take this opportunity to convey my condolences to those who lost loved ones, and wish quick recovery to those who are in hospitals. But it's also, I think we've learned a few lessons. You know, this idea of the preparedness in terms of some of these natural calamities, it seems to be really an issue of concern for most countries.
Right. Let me just sort out your issue. With your mic,
my mic
is crackling a bit, so
it's cracking. Okay, sorry.
I'll get back to you as well. Issue of preparedness is very key indeed. Even as we're talking, Senator Elachi, we know El Nino is here with us, and people also are always complaining that yes, we have the floods, the water harvesting is not there. People also are taken away by the floods. So this time forth, the Meteorological Department has been very categorical on this, that be prepared. I wonder how sufficiently you can see also from your constituency you're being prepared by maybe, is it the function of a county government?
Thank you very much, and good morning.
Good morning to you.
I think I also just want to send my condolences to our brothers and sisters in Morocco, and we can see, I think, you remember we started with Turkey, and now, and you can imagine Turkey is very advanced, and at that time you'd see how desperate they were. So you can imagine now, I can see Morocco is also very advanced, but the magnitude, I mean, 1,000+ people is not a very good thing. It now comes back to us, and you remember the disaster we had in Malawi. And at that time, I think, I don't know what the AU thought about at that time, after Malawi, being in an inland, and yet it can be rocked and 200 people plus just swept away. Now we come home, as you say, let me just use Dagoretti North. You know, it's very unfortunate we never got this girl who was just swept away in the morning with rains, just people building just close to the rivers. Nobody is there to enforce the riparian areas of water. And it's not, as you say, the meteorological department are trying to tell us, look, there is a rain coming and this will happen. So I'm hoping we can work closely with the county governments. I know the Rotary Club of Gigiri are coming up with a program that we'll be launching in October, and I just want to thank them. One is to see how we deal with the river just around that area, but also start asking ourselves, how do we now mitigate all the challenges we are facing in terms of seaward just entering the water, in terms of people moving out of the riparian land, so that if indeed we find ourselves in such a scenario, we should not be talking about people who are swept with water because they were just on the river. So I think for me that is very critical, and even the enforcement in terms of the administration, it has to be very, very key, because sometimes we are very reluctant until we see ourselves in a crisis when now we start running. Let me talk about this issue of counties, you know, it means that now many people are feeling the 6 or the 13 or 26 members of parliament.
We will come to the counties much later.
Okay.
Because I know also that is a very big issue regarding how people are feeling, the sentiments, where the country is right now on the economy. So everyone is bound to have their own peace of mind as far as the counties is concerned. But I just want to run you about the story of Morocco that also Beatrice Elachi is alluding to, so that we can also just get an inkling of how things are in Morocco right now. That number seems to be ticking up. As it stands right now, the death toll has risen beyond 2,000. It is standing at 2,100. And it's a very important to actually note what really happens in other jurisdictions as well. And just to talk about it briefly. Also, that is well covered for you on page 26 of the Standard this morning. Also in the Daily Nation, you can follow that story as well. And it's a story that you keep on doggedly following. But in terms of preparedness, then what do we do when we as a country have El Nino as well that we have to prepare for? And this is what I'm actually asking our legislators. I just want to hear what is happening in Bomet as well, just to hear from Hilary Sigay before we continue.
Thank you very much, Diva, and good morning. Just came this morning from Bomet, and one of the things that I must comment about is the query that you asked about our preparedness to tackle with the El Nino. And before that, I must also comment about the weekend that it was. We had the Cabinet Secretary for Road and Transport visiting the county to check on the status of the infrastructure development programs that are running there, including a number of road networks. And indeed, we had a session that involved the entire leadership of the county in checking on what is the status, sharing the challenges that we've experienced with the infrastructure in his ministry. And I must appreciate the team that took us through the entire session from Saturday and Sunday. And I look forward to now the implementation of quite a number of the agenda items in infrastructure, which the CS committed to do, and which the people of Bomet also expects the Kenya Kwanza government to deliver for them. Bomet is one of the counties in Dibal that gave the president the greatest vote in the country. And from where I come from, as a matter of right, as a matter of expecting the government to deliver, I must say that having that personal feel with the people whom you are serving is one way of bringing closer to the people the services, and also having a first-hand experience by those who are in the executive with the electorate, with the leaders who are represented, because that is the only opportunity for the leaders at the ground to share the feel of the people and to demand services for its people. Now, back to the main issue that you have asked me in terms of preparedness. It is indeed true that El Nino is coming. In fact, yesterday afternoon in Bomet, we had heavy rains across almost, I had an event in Bomet Central and another one in Chapalungu constituency, Bomet Central. We were in a church service in Isaik. Isaik is in Bomet Central, Sinkorwet Ward. And the church service was interrupted midway because of heavy rains. And it rained all through. As to whether we are prepared or not, one of the funny things that I must say is a question of, are we ready to utilize the heavy rains? Do we have sufficient storage facilities that are ready to support us? Because one interesting thing, Dibal, is that we will have heavy rain, so heavy that you wouldn't expect our parents, our sisters, our relatives to immediately after the rain, you can see them with the jerry cans going back to the river again. That is actually the experience I have in my place. And they say in Swahili, sijui nani alituroga. Tunapata tunamaliza mvua inaisha, unapata kina mama bado anabeba mitungi kwenda mtoni kuchukua maji ile maji yenye ilitoka kwa nyumba zetu, it's not collected, it's not preserved, and we have got no option but to go out again to the river to collect the same water that we just let off. One thing I know is, which I must say, is that we are not really prepared to also utilize the heavy rains. We are not prepared, therefore, on the possible massive consequences which will lead to either destruction of our roads, destruction of a number of properties, and of course now that means it will be disaster, just as the one we are talking about here in Morocco, the earthquake, where in terms of preparedness, were they prepared? How about the rescue mission? You know, all that. So similarly, I'm worried that we are not really prepared. I haven't seen the government, whether national or county government, other than telling people that we are expecting heavy rains. You know, it's one thing to tell people that El Nino is coming. It's another thing to make sure that systems are in place and people have, you know, the relevant preparedness in terms of infrastructure and what have you. My worry is, of course, with regards to the road network, because that is normally one of the most unfortunate sectors that get affected, because heavy rains means complete destruction of our road networks. Remember, right now we are struggling to collect resources to rebuild a lot of infrastructure, like what I was saying as my introductory message, what we experienced over the weekend with the Cabinet Secretary for Transport. We went around almost 3 constituencies in the county, looking at the infrastructure. And if these rains come, believe you me, Dibal, we will lose quite a good number of the road infrastructure that is currently under construction, merely because of the inability to fully get prepared to deal with El Nino. But otherwise, of course, the information, the sensitization, and also the alertness that people are being given will help in a great deal to also make people know that this is coming. But as to the extent of the practical preparedness, we're still lacking. And that's my worry.
All right. Let me hear from Dr. Makalimulu. I think I'd interrupted your train of thoughts because of the mic issue. It's sorted right now. Hope we've not lost it.
Yeah, that's also about. Yeah, what I was saying is, I think what has happened in Morocco should actually kind of trigger something in most countries in terms of how prepared we are when what happened there would happen to any country anyway. And I think, as my colleagues are saying, most of the countries are facing challenges in preparing in case such emergencies occur. Like the issue of the rains, you know, in this country we are all complaining year in, year out. When the rains come, we're having a lot of things happening. We're having flooding, people being displaced. For example, the story of Budalangi, as we've been asked for many years. The story of Kisumu area. But you know, we've been independent for the last almost 60 years. And every year, people are getting displaced. People are getting their houses submerged in water. And then they have to restart again. So I think we really need to get our priorities right. And in a situation where this has become like a norm, that you are aware, when the rains come, this will happen. When the rains come, we know very well that there will be flooding. So it is important as leaders and those who are in the plan for some of these things to take a bit of time and see how we can come up with a long-lasting solutions to some of these issues, so that we address one by one, and at the end of the day, we could comfortably say, now we are safe. But you know, there are also cases where you might not be able to do much anyway. We're just saying, since they occur and we can't plan for them, there are emergencies, can we have a bit of preparedness so that it helps us? But the other thing about is that although you said we'll discuss some of these things, let's wait till we get to the issues, issues of the counties.
Yeah, hold your horses so that we can actually...
Let's order our horses.
Let the horse of Tana River also just get in and tell us how Tana River is doing. Danso Mugatara, good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you.
Yeah, very well, Dibao.
Yeah, welcome to this other side of our studio.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. We thank God we got a little rain for us, and which is a relief, because the problem with the challenge we have in Tana River is that we depend on rain-fed agriculture so much.
Yes,
the river's full potential has not been tapped, and our prayer is that over time, proper agricultural policies at the county level would be implemented so that we see the fruits of our river. Otherwise, also greetings from Kigali. I was out of the country. I happened to co-chair with Honorable Kawaya the Bunge Sports Committee. So we are preparing for the East African Interparliamentary Games, and so many of the leaders from all the countries of East Africa were there, the leaders of the various parliaments. So we were discussing and planning for all these guys so that come December, we'll have a good spirit of interaction, deepening and widening the spirit of East African community. Otherwise, thank you very much for having me this morning.
I always wonder which sports from Bunge that we have British Elachi maybe participating in, and Makali Molu, I'll be able to know. I know for you, you're the chair of the basketball.
Yes,
yes,
in basketball.
What about British Elachi?
I'm a member.
You remember? Which sports?
In basketball.
In basketball. She plays basketball. Okay.
And I'm trying to.
But the chair seems to be surprised.
I don't know whether I'm part of this.
The chair seems to be surprised that you remember.
Yeah. the teams that have most members, it's tug of war, and athletics.
And athletics.
Yes.
Okay.
And that is where I belong.
Athletics. Yeah, you of course.
Excellent.
What about Makali Mulu?
No, when I joined Parliament, I used to play football. When I retired, now I'm just a gym guy.
Advisor.
I go to the gym.
You're a technical advisor.
I don't go to anymore for that.
But if you retire, so you don't have also other indoor sports as well, or it's just outdoors?
No,
maybe now that
we do, like
the Scrabbles and the chess and
for our PW members.
Yes.
We have darts. It's part of the interparliamentary games. And most of them participate in that. We also have golf
Makali,
he can move to golfing.
Boys and boys and
that can be very good.
We should begin by buying him some clubs there. I think. Okay. I think.
But they can also bring in table tennis, which we are doing. I know.
So just to expand that particular program, yes, indeed. And so, even as we're talking about that, because the last time I think we were talking about how the legislators also are seeking to have membership in country clubs that is beyond Nairobi, and also ramping up of the gyms. And people were asking, why then are legislators seeking for, country club membership throughout the country? When they're in Mombasa, they can join a country club there. When they're in light of what you're just talking about, just to keep yourself healthy as well, and other benefits. We thought you have that particular tower. Is it? I don't know. Do you know
the Bunge Towers?
The Bunge Towers right now that is well equipped. Even you want a nurse so that you can actually have a good diet.
No.
You want also. No, let me just list up what was there.
No, I did.
You want a la carte as well from the parliamentary cafeteria. Yeah, that the food there is not really befitting, a legislator. So you need to,
on a serious note, I think I'd like to actually use this platform to ask Kenyans, just every morning or evening, depending on your time schedules, try and take a walk or run. Prevention is better than cure. We must fight for our health, and fighting for our health means taking responsibility for your body. The way you take responsibility and went to school and developed your brain, your mind to where you are, you also need to develop the body. The way you go to church to develop your spirit, and the way you read your Bible or Quran or whatever, you also need to develop the mind, the body, and the spirit. So the body is something many people neglect, and we need to be preventive, not to wait until these diseases attack you. So just to appeal to everyone who is in that space, let us be healthy. When we were young, we never used to get sick because we were always running, always doing this. Even if your mom is sending you somewhere, you run. You don't walk. Now we are a bit older, we must somehow maintain the physicality of our development. It will help us a lot.
Indeed. And I think last week also we highlighted the way there is a new revelation, and I think also it's one of the dailies where it's covering the BMJ oncology study, that it shows now that we have even younger people who are below the age of 50. Most of them recording high numbers of cancer cases as being reported, and people are wondering why. Is it the change? Is it the lifestyle? It's very important what you say, that we normally sometimes don't really take this body that where we live in. Absolutely. It's the only place where we live in, as some people say, British Elachi. Very key, and I think this needs also to be given more attention, especially here in the country where we know the cost and the burden of cancer is rising exponentially.
The diet bit is also important. I met some legislators who, and I've started to try it, I don't know whether it will work, but they say that the body can effectively deal with 1 meal per day. So Dibal, when you have your breakfast, no lunch, no dinner. If you have your lunch, no dinner, no breakfast. If you have your dinner, no breakfast, no lunch. The rest of the day, you just take water. And believe me, you won't die. And I've been trying it since we went there and met all those healthy people, and I tell you, it just works. So we can live with 1 meal per day. So your diet is also critical. You can live with 1 meal per day, do your exercise, pray to God, read your Bible, you'll be fine. Healthy living.
Healthy living, yes. You see, not just that. It is now important nowadays. And I think that is why in the Bible there is fasting. If you feel you're very sick but you are able to fast, even for 5 days, do that. Because that is how you deny the disease to spread. Because diseases thrive on what we take in. And you know, when you're eating, you don't just start with the stomach. The moment it gets into your mouth, it starts there. So it depends. And I think for us Kenyans, what is really affecting us is something quietly we didn't know. I think we've kept quiet. We've used all types of oil that we have, the salads, but we've never gone to know how the factories are doing. And even as I say that, I think many of the challenges we face, even of cancer, it's a spread of nearly 10 to 15 years where we never used to check. And so you find many of the different chemicals that we have used to flavor the different foods that we eat might be even part of our problem. So we just need to ask ourselves, how did our mothers survive, our grandmothers, even us, when we were growing up? You remember, even today when you go home, Tibal, when you see how they cook food, even if it's chicken or anything, you'll find it very different at home, very different. And also maybe the way we cook very fast with our gases. You see, we just put food, and this is a sufuria, we cook. But at home, they used to cook slowly. And so food will be good, but also it will be able now to remove all the toxins that we have. But for us, we cook with gas very fast. You cook with a sufuria that is also metallic, You put in 5 minutes you have food. We must
the aluminium
think
that you use as well,
of how we go back.
Really get into
So I want to agree with Senator, yes, is we need to walk. In fact, many Kenyans, even us, you would come out of a car, you are in a car, you are out of a car, in a car. And the time you are hit by any disease, you struggle so much. Not because of anything else, just because, first of all, your bones and everything are so weak because you're not used to strengthening them. We are lucky, but our children are more in a challenge because we ensure they go by car, come by car. Yes. So even as parents, if our schools are very near, for me, the school is not very far. They walk in the evening, and they wonder why. I told them, you have to walk. You can go in the morning because you have to go into class or whatever, but in the evening, put your bag on the back, it becomes your pack, and walk. And they walk. So we just have to see how it will help them in their future. Yes.
All right, and just in light with that, because when we're talking about health, there's a whole debate that has been, of course, in the public domain right now, and I think also we had a snippet out of that conversation last week regarding the SHIF, which is NHIF morphing into it as well. Now, governors, they demand review of these Ruto health plan bills according to the data that we had. The national government has proposed, of course, radical changes. We discussed this last week briefly, and we said this is, of course, still gray areas, that it is still under draft, but governors also, they have noted, and they want this particular draft review. I don't know what will be your sentiment, because we have the Udome Njuki saying the two levels of government need to respect each other. Our legal team and that from the ministry ought to have sat and agreed on the issues we are raising before they go out to the stakeholders for public participation. So there was the intergovernmental, or I think the Intergovernmental Authority Committee, yes. Yeah. There also needs to work together with this before we come up with this legislation, because as we said, it is touching also on the counties, and you can see the governors now have picked it as well. Some of these radical plans that are going to affect the health sector, the employment, or the employees as well. Before we get into that, was there any participation from the county side before these governors now picked up on this? Or how do you come up with this legislation that is affecting both, and you don't actually talk to them?
You know, Dibal, the issue of public participation is a constitutional requirement. That whatever you do, you have to bring in the input from the public.
But where does it begin? Before we even go on, where does it begin? Does it begin from the draft,
that's what I'm
draft
saying.
stage? Yes.
What is expected is that even by the time the originator of that bill, because it must have originated from either the Ministry of Health or some government office, before they get to the level where the cabinet can be involved, there should have been a process of public participation. That's what happens with the money, even the budgets we do. That's why you see Treasury would advertise in the papers, will be doing public participation, KICC, people can present their memoranda, or they can come in person. That is expected. But what is happening, and we have been able to discuss this about, the issue of the national government and the county governments. Health is an evolved function, which means at the end of the day, nothing should be coming from the national government without involving the counties, and more so agreeing on the framework of engagement. Because these bills, even if we pass them, most of the implementation part of it will be done at the counties. So the best way would have been a situation where the Ministry of Health, that is the Minister for Health at the national level, and the CEC Health at the county level, should have been working very close in terms of originating these bills and what is in the bills, so that whatever they are proposing has been discussed, so that we don't get to this level when it is too late and then the counties are coming like now. I can't agree more with my colleague, Mudonmi is my friend. What you say makes a lot of sense. That now what they are doing is when the bills are tabled in Parliament, the counties now will come as one of the stakeholders at that level of public participation, not by Parliament. And they might be proposing such serious amendments that it's like saying, do away with these bills. When it's that late, a lot of resources have gone into preparation, a lot of resources have gone into that preparation. So if we had initial consultation, you sort out most of the controversial issues, and by the time you get either to cabinet or to Parliament, you will think there is more of general consensus that now we move forward. But even as we said the other day, these 4 bills, there are merits of these bills, but at the same time there are also demerits, and it's important we put into place where we can now compare the merits and the demerits and see which is of much public interest as compared to a situation where we've seen, and you know, to me, when I get very concerned when I see the executive pushing things to the Parliament, because you know when it comes to Parliament, it's now more voting, and you know this is something we have said. Now, when it comes to Parliament, because of the whipping of the members by their political parties, you are likely to get things through Parliament, which later people have to go to court to say this is not right. So how I wish we started early, we involve everybody, so that by the time it comes to Parliament, we have worked. And this is the same story you can see in the papers today, where our leader, the Azimio coalition, we are saying, we are seeing national government coming out strongly and going to commission projects and programs, which should be commissioned by governors. So are we serious? This matters of devolution. Because if a function is a county government function, we would want to see more the governors taking leadership in that, not the executive at the national level.
Thank you.
Yes.
Not the executive, but of course on that particular note, we take a short break. When we circle back, we hear from Senator Bomet of Bomet, Hilary Segei as well, talking about this. Is also the president overplaying his hands as far as these projects are concerned. That is also an issue that Raila Odinga seems to be having a concern with, that yes, the projects within the counties are being overtaken by the national government when it comes to launches as well. But also still on taxes, he is saying that the current administration is overtaxing Kenyans. The latest is the unemployment insurance bill that has been tabled by a member of a legislator from Chinyali that also seeks to have 1% contributed from the employer and the employee into a kitty. And this also seems to be adding a burden to already heavily taxed Kenyans. So we'll also interrogate the unemployment insurance bill that has come to the fore, that when you lose a job, it will be the owners of the employer and you, the employee, publicly to actually steamroll or help you cushion you during that time of retrenchment.